everyone. Good morning and welcome to Deloitte Ghana's Energy Webinar Series. My name is Engineer Mavis Enyimeje. I'm an assistant manager with Deloitte in the Technology and Transformation team under the Energy Consulting Department. And thank you so much for joining. Today will be very exciting as we have packed experts who are very, very well experienced in their fields of work. We've been able to get people who are so busy, but they've been able to come and help us with this webinar. So it promises to be a very exciting one. Today's webinar is about driving energy efficiency, how measuring performance can lower costs and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. One may ask, what is energy efficiency? Energy efficiency, in simple terms, means using less energy to perform the same task or produce the same output without compromising performance or comfort. In simple, plain language, it is about, example, using an LED instead of an incandescent lamp. Same brightness, but less electricity. Driving an EV car. Same distance, but less fuel. Insulating a building. Same comfort, but less heating and cooling energy. So energy efficiency has moved from a technical discussion to a strategic priority. Today's webinar focuses on where cost, compliance, and emissions converge, and why measuring energy performance is the most practical place to start. Today's conversation is about something that affects all of us. Obviously, we all use energy. Whether we realize it or not, how our buildings use energy, how much that costs us, and what it means for the future. Across Ghana, we see a growing convergence, rising energy costs, stronger regulatory expectations, and increasing pressure to reduce emissions and improve performance. What used to be a technical issue is now a business, operational, and even personal issue. So today it's not about theory, it's about making energy efficiency practical, understanding what is changing, what is required now, and what actions can you and I take immediately, whether you're designing, operating, cooking, hairdresser, whoever you are, regulating finance, or simply just using a building. So thank you so much, and it promises to be a very exciting one. So sit back, relax, and then enjoy the session. At this moment, I would like to invite our technology and transformation partner, who is the host for this webinar, in the person of Sewa Atiase Jogoniku. Sewa Atiase is coming to give us a welcome note. Without much ado, Sewa, kindly take over. Thank you. Sewa Atiase is a seasoned consulting professional with over 29 years experience in organizational transformation, governance, and operational excellence across Africa. She is currently the partner at Deloitte Ghana, where she leads the international affairs and development practice, delivering strategic advisory services to governments, regulators, and development institutions to drive sustainable and energy-level system impact. Sawa has led several high-profile energy sector and regulatory assignments across the region. She has led a multidisciplinary team of power experts to review key operations of the Electricity Distribution and Supply Authority, ETSA, in Sierra Leone, providing recommendations to reduce technical and commercial losses and improve system efficiency. She's currently leading another team of energy policy and other relevant experts to develop regional electricity regulatory principles and utility key performance indicators for the ECOWAS Regional Electricity Regulatory Authority. She's also providing oversight on the harmonized comparison of electricity tariffs, including cost reflectivity assessments across all the ECOWAS member states. Help me welcome Sewa for the welcome note. Thank you. Sewa, please, over to you.
Thank you, Mavis. Good morning, everyone, and welcome again. I believe most of us here often hear about energy efficiency, and it's probably something we actually think about a lot and wonder how we can individually and collectively do something about it to improve our bottom line and overall improve the quality of our lives. Because we all experience the same challenges of high electricity bills, unreliable power, and the growing pressure to do better on sustainability. In today's session, we bring together regulators, policy leaders, and practitioners to share practical insights on what we can do now, what to expect, and how we can act decisively to be more energy efficient. We at Deloitte Ghana are pleased to host this conversation and look forward to a very engaging conversation. Thank you and have fun. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sawa, for that. And as you rightly mentioned, the reality is that many organizations are still spending more than they need to on energy, not because solutions don't exist, but because performance is not being measured and managed effectively. So this webinar's objective is simple. Make energy efficiency actionable. What's changing? What's required? And what organizations can do now to cut costs and emissions without unnecessary technical complexity. Today, we'll cover four things. One, which is regulatory and policy direction for energy efficiency in Ghana, buildings and appliances. Two, what energy audits and performance measurements deliver in practice. Three, cooling, appliance standards, and compliance. Four, how energy efficiency links to greenhouse gas emission reduction and environmental, social, and governance ESG reporting readiness, practically and credibly. We will invite, at this note, a few housekeeping rules. If you have any questions as the session is going on, you can just put it in the Q&A chat box and we'll pick it up during the Q&A session. We will now move into our keynote segment. It is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Seth Mahu, the Director for Renewable Energy and Green Transition at the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition. Mr. Mao has been at the forefront of shaping Ghana's energy transition agenda with a strong focus on advancing renewable energy, strengthening energy efficiency, and driving policy and investment frameworks to support a more sustainable and resilient energy system. Today, he will share insights into the Government of Ghana's energy efficiency interventions, the progress made so far, and the direction of travel as the country continues to align energy performance with broader climate and development goals. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Seth Mahu for his keynote address. Thank you. Mr. Mahu, you are welcome. Please take over. Mr. Mahu, it seems you are speaking to mute. Kindly unmute so that we can hear you.
Hello.
Wonderful. We can hear you now.
Thank you. Good morning, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to deliver the keynote for this very important webinar, discussing a topic that is so dear to us as a ministry, a government, and a country. We meet at a defining moment for the global energy system. Geopolitical instability in the Middle East has once again exposed how vulnerable energy systems and markets are to events far beyond national borders. Fuel prices fluctuate overnight, supply chains tighten, and fiscal pressures mount. At the same time, climate impact continues to accelerate. For countries like Ghana, these realities sharpen an important question: how do we build an energy system that is affordable, secure, and resilient in an increasingly uncertain world? One answer stands out clearly. The most reliable unit of energy is the one we do not have to produce. Energy efficiency is not simply a technical option. It is an economic, security, and climate strategy. In Ghana, it has already proven its value and must now be elevated as a core pillar of our energy transition and investment plan. especially in the built environment. Ghana has been deliberate in placing energy efficiency at the heart of national policy. The energy policy of 2022 and the energy transition framework adopted by the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition both recognize that managing demand is just as important as expanding supply. This thinking aligns with global evidence from the International Energy Agency and International Renewable Energy Agency, which consistently rank energy efficiency as the most cost-effective tool for reducing emissions, lowering system costs, and enhancing energy security. What makes Ghana's case compelling is not just policy ambitions, but results. Let me begin with appliance, particularly refrigeration. For many years, Ghana's electricity system was quietly burdened by the widespread use of old and inefficient refrigerators, many imported secondhand. With support from UNDP and the Global Environment Facility, the government of Ghana True Energy Commission launched a national refrigerator rebate and replacement program in 2012. More than 5,000 inefficient units were physically replaced, with tens of thousands more prevented from entering the country through a strict import ban. The impact was immediate and measurable. Households that participated saved on average $25 every month on electricity bills. At the national level, inefficient appliances had previously accounted for close to 30% of electricity losses. By transforming this market, Ghana avoided significant future demand and reduced carbon emissions by hundreds of thousands of tons over the life of these appliances. The program also led to the development of a strong local manufacturing capability with firms like Hisense producing high-quality refrigeration appliances with distribution outlets across the entire country. Lightning provides another powerful example. During the electricity supply crisis of the late 2000s, Ghana rolled out one of Africa's most ambitious demand-side interventions by distributing 6 million compact fluorescent lamps free of charge to households. The result was extraordinary. Peak electricity demand fell by more than 200 megawatts almost overnight. Almost overnight. This is equivalent to shutting down a medium-sized thermal power plant. In residential neighborhoods alone, studies recorded peak reductions of nearly 3%. This intervention stabilized the grid, deferred the need for costly new generation, and demonstrated that energy efficiency can deliver system-level impact faster than almost any supply-side investment. Ladies and gentlemen, energy efficiency gains are not limited to electricity. Clean cooking initiatives highlight how efficiency cuts across the entire energy economy. Today, cooking still accounts for more than 60% of Ghana's final energy consumption. Traditional cook stoves waste energy, degrade forests, and expose households to severe health risks. Improved and clean cook stove programs, now active across the country, reduce fuel wood consumption by up to 60% per household. More than 2 million families have already adopted these solutions, leading to major savings in biomass demand, reduced deforestation, and dramatic reductions in indoor air pollution. These interventions are as much about energy efficiency as they are about social equity, health, and climate resilience. Taking together these examples underline why demand reduction matters. First, it lowers system costs. Every megawatt saved through efficiency avoids several megawatts of investment in generation, transmission, and distribution. The International Energy Agency's global analysis confirms this, and Ghana's experience proves it locally. Efficiency has helped defer power plants, reduce fuel imports, and limit tariff pressures on consumers. Second, it strengthens energy security. Ghana's generation mix still include a significant share of thermal power dependent on gas and oil. In a world where geopolitical tension disrupts supply and raise prices, reducing demand is a form of strategic protection. It cushions public finances and reduces exposure to external shocks. Third, it reduces reliance on expensive new generation. New power plants come with long lead times and capital commitments. Efficiency measures, especially in buildings, appliances, and industry, can be deployed rapidly and scaled widely, delivering immediate relief to the system. Energy efficiency also improves how renewable energy performs. Lower demand means smaller renewable systems are needed to deliver the same services. Efficient buildings paired with solar requires fewer panels and less land, reduce and smoother loads profiles, lower storage requirements, and improve grid stability. This is why the IAEA and IRENA emphasize that energy efficiency and renewables are inseparable partners. One cannot deliver a cost-effective energy transition without the other. Buildings are especially important. Efficient cooling, lighting, and construction standards directly address Ghana's fastest growing source of electricity demand. As urbanization accelerates and temperatures rise, ensuring that buildings consume less energy is one of the most effective ways to manage peak demand and improve energy efficiency. Yet, despite these successes, energy efficiency remains underskilled. The barriers are well known. Capacity gaps persist among designers, installers, financiers, and local authorities. Institutional responsibilities are fragmented across agencies, slowing implementation. Most critically, financing remains a challenge. Efficiency projects are often small, dispersed, and undervalued by traditional financial institutions, even though their returns are proven and reliable. This is why initiatives supported by the African Development Bank and the World Bank, as well as Deloitte's lead in organizing this increasing focus on dedicated interventions that guarantees and create markets that will transform how we can scale energy efficiency. What needs to change is not technology, but approach. And I repeat that. What we need to change is not about technology, but the way we approach energy efficiency. Energy efficiency must be treated as infrastructure. It must be planned, financed, and governed with the same seriousness as power plants and grids. Policies must be enforced, not just written. Financing mechanisms must evolve to recognize savings as a reliable revenue stream, and data must be used to demonstrate value, reduce risk, and attract private capital. By placing energy efficiency at the center of our energy transition plan, Ghana is not only responding to today's crisis, but building a resilient and competitive energy future. The evidence is clear, the benefits are proven, and the opportunity to scale impact has never been greater. I thank you. Good morning.
Thank you so much, Engineer Setmao. That was really, really, really informative and insightful. One key takeaway from your address is that energy efficiency is not just about reducing consumption. It is a strategic infrastructure tool capable of deferring generation investment, stabilizing the grid, reducing emissions, and improving social outcomes simultaneously. A strong highlight for me was how you demonstrated that demand-side interventions can create system-level impact almost overnight, sometimes faster than the supply-side expansion. This obviously means that individually, as we use these appliances, use these buildings, we have a responsibility to try and be efficient in our energy usage. Thank you so much for that. So we'll continue with the session. So just to give you the outline of the rest of the session,
Thank
we're
you,
going to have
Adra. On this steps in Felix. Adra, thank you very much. I'll be back shortly. My colleague Felix will sit in on the panel. I'll come over to continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Engineer Seth. Thank you. All right. So, to just give you an outline of the rest of the discussions, we're going to have a technical presentation from one of our team members here in Deloitte. Then we move into the panel discussions, and then we'll have a Q&A sessions. I'm seeing that some hands have started going up for questions. I can see how people are anxious for this and want to know more. So please just relax, and when we get to the Q&A session, you'll have opportunity to ask all your questions. So we'll continue with our technical presentation. I'm pleased to introduce one of our own engineer, Kofi Dochi. He's an energy expert as well and an assistant manager here with Deloitte Ghana. He brings strong experience in power systems, energy efficiency, and demand side management across the sectors. He's an electrical engineer by profession who's been in the system for almost 17 years in power distribution. He has experience in power distribution, telecom infrastructure, energy sector advisory. He has extensive experience also supporting utilities and development projects in areas including renewable energy, feasibility assessment, technical loss reduction, etc., etc. Engineer Kofi Dochi is really experienced. Engineer Kofi Dochi will walk us through the practical aspects of energy efficiency in buildings, highlighting how energy performance can be measured, where inefficiencies typically occur, and the key interventions that deliver measurable costs and emission reductions. All right. So, Kofi, please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, Mavis, thank you for the introduction. I'll now share my slides. Kindly alert me if you see my slides. I hope my slides can be seen.
Yes, Kofi.
Okay, all right. Thank you. So, good morning, everyone, and then welcome to today's webinar, which is on driving energy efficiency in buildings. So, as Mavis already mentioned, my name is Kofi Dochi. I'm with Deloitte, and over the next 10 minutes, I'm hoping to set the stage for what I'm anticipating to be a very insightful and rich panel discussion. At the end of my presentation, the message I would like to leave behind is simple, that measuring performance can lower cost and reduce greenhouse gas emissions in buildings. So without wasting time, let's get started. So why buildings? Globally, buildings are one of the biggest contributors to our energy and climate challenge. As a matter of fact, the International Energy Agency, that's the IEA, have conducted research that has revealed that buildings are responsible for over 30% of global energy consumption, right? Now, they also found out that buildings are responsible for about 26% of global greenhouse gas emissions. But the encouraging part is that research has consistently suggested that through smarter design and efficient operation of buildings, the energy consumptions of buildings can be reduced by 50%. Now, in Ghana, buildings represent a significant and growing share of national energy demand, making them a critical lever for both cost savings and climate actions. And so it is important that we plan our buildings and manage their energy efficiently. But then before we manage our buildings, we need to understand the relationship between the energy consumptions of these buildings and their greenhouse gas emissions. So this slide presents the linkage between the energy consumption and the greenhouse gas emissions, right? And this relationship is fundamental to whatever we are going to discuss here today. So when a building consumes energy, it is basically drawing power from the national grid. Now, in Ghana, the grid generates power through a mix of thermal plants and renewables. So the great emission factor is simply the greenhouse gas emissions that are produced for every unit of energy that the grid generates and supplies to the consumers or to buildings. So the formula is pretty straightforward. It says that the greenhouse gas emissions are equivalent to the product of the energy consumed and the great emissions factor. Now, what this simply means is that for each unit of energy saved, this translates to a reduction in your carbon footprint. And so basically, energy efficiency is not just a story of finance. I would say it is the foundation of an effective emission reduction strategy for buildings, right? Now, let me touch briefly on Ghana's building energy efficiency regulatory framework. In Ghana, there are a number of institutions that ensure that energy efficiency regulatory framework are developed, managed, and enforced. And these institutions include the Energy Commission, the Ministry of Works and Housing, the Environmental Protection Agency, and then the Ghana Standards Authority. Some of the codes and building standards that have been developed are the Ghana Building Code, which basically lays down essential requirements buildings must comply with. And that's the foundation for the Ghana Building Energy Efficiency Guidelines. Then there's also the building regulations. This basically ensures safety, public health, welfare, and environmental protection in the construction of all buildings. Then we also have the climate action roadmap for buildings, right? Now, let me also mention that the Energy Commission actually have developed 19 regulations for appliances just to ensure efficiency. So some of these standards are the air conditioner standards. Then we also have the LED and public lighting standards. And then there's also the renewable energy S&L regulations. That is basically about the standards and labeling for solar panels, inverters, and then the renewable energy batteries. Now, I believe that you cannot reduce what you don't measure. And so energy audit is very important. Now, what is an energy audit? It is simply a systematic inspection of a building's energy flow. So typically, an energy auditor will identify where, how, and why energy is used, and then they would uncover opportunities to reduce waste. So some of the benefits are about 15 to 30% typical energy cost savings. And then there's also the greenhouse gas baseline for reporting. This is critical because the audit establishes your greenhouse gas baseline. You cannot credibly report emissions reductions if you don't know where you started. And then there's also the prioritized investment for roadmap. So the audit will show you basically where to invest and where to focus, right? The audit process usually involves 4 steps. The first step is where you collect your data, and I'm talking about your bills, your drawings, equipment, inventory, and then you do your site inspection. That's where you do the walkthrough and measurements. And then when you have your information, what do? You analyze it and you do your modeling. And then finally, you report and you develop an action plan, which is pretty straightforward. Now, one of the biggest opportunities identified in most Ghanaian buildings is cooling, right? Air conditioners consume a lot, and so it is important that we touch on this. Now, air conditioning is the single largest energy consumer in most commercial buildings in Ghana. We all know that we operate in a very hot climate. And so cooling is not a luxury, it is a necessity. And that also means that it is our biggest efficiency lever. So what is the annual energy efficiency ratio? That's the AER. It basically measures how efficiently an air conditioner converts electrical energy into cooling over a full year. So if you have a higher AER, it means your air conditioner consumes less energy and your bills are lower, and there are also fewer um, emissions. Now, the technology that best meet this standard is the inverter air conditioner. So if you look at the slide, you realize that I've indicated the pros of the inverter against the conventional AC. We can see that depending on the capacity of the AC, there are about 30 to 50% energy savings. The operating cost is significantly lower. And then the greenhouse gas emissions are substantially reduced because, as I mentioned, for every unit um, of energy saved, what that means is that your greenhouse emissions will also be reduced. But then the upfront cost is slightly higher. However, over a period of 4 years, you can really pay back. Now, let me now touch on some practical efficiency measures, right? So there are some behavioral measures like the thermostat management. We can all set our ACs to temperatures like 24 degrees instead of 18 degrees. And then research has shown that each degree lower adds about 8% of energy use. And then there has to be lighting discipline. We need to switch off our lights and equipment in unoccupied spaces. If we don't need to use the lights, we just put them off. And then occupancy schedules, we need to align our AC lighting operation with actual building use. And then we also need to designate energy champions, right, to lead and monitor energy efficiency. So personally, what I do is that I try as much as possible not to use the elevator, but I mean when I can, because I'm conscious about the energy efficiency. There are also some technical measures. There's the LED lighting retrofit. That's about 60 to 75% lighting energy savings with rapid payback. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the inverter AC upgrade, there's about 30 to 50% cooling energy reduction under the AER standards. And then building envelope, we also have to look at how we design and construct our buildings. We have to focus on the insulation, the shading, and then glazing to cut solar heat again. And then energy management systems, we can look at automated controls for real-time monitoring and savings. So once you've implemented measures, how do you track whether they are actually working and how do you report that to stakeholders? Now, these are some practical steps. The first step is to establish your baseline. So you would typically collect about 12 months of utility bills and meter data, and then you calculate the emissions by applying the Ghana grid factor to the energy data. And then that's what the third step is where you conduct energy audit to find reduction opportunities. And then you implement the measures by prioritizing by cost benefit and payback period. And then finally, you monitor and report. That is where you track savings, verify reductions, and disclose progress. Now, financing is very important. You cannot talk about energy efficiency without mentioning financing and investment, right? Now, the good news is that the financial landscape for energy efficiency investment has never been more favorable. There are some green finance instruments. There are the green bonds and climate funds. There's also the development bank credit lines, And I know the IFC and the AFDB, they have some facility programs. In Ghana, these are some of the active financing opportunities. EcoBank has a $31 million solar action program, and it's basically focusing on households, SMEs, and agricultural cooperatives, right? And then Fidelity Bank also has launched the Green Lending Fund, which is a concessionary financing facility designed to support climate-friendly and environmentally responsible businesses in Ghana. So they can loan such businesses with amounts ranging from 50,000 to 10 million Ghana cedis, which I think is very impressive. Now, to build the ecosystem, there have to be some important stakeholders, right? I would say energy efficiency in buildings is not a problem that any actor can solve alone. It involves a number of stakeholders. The regulators and the government set the standards and enforce the requirements, right? As I already mentioned, Energy Commission has developed about 19 regulations for electrical appliances, right? So they are very important. And then the energy auditors also quantify the opportunities and build the evidence base. And then the designers and the developers embed efficiency from conception. Facility managers will operate buildings to their potential day after day. And the financial institutions would provide the funding for these green initiatives. So each of these groups, I believe, will be represented on our panel today. Now, just to recap, I would say one, energy efficiency is the foundation of low carbon buildings. It's not an add-on. Two, energy audits translate consumption into actionable savings and greenhouse gas reductions. The AER standards and inverter ACs offer immediate measurable cooling efficiency gains. And then number four, green finance instruments make the business case and reduce upfront barriers. And then finally, collaboration across all stakeholders is the multiplier that drives sector-wide change. So at this point, I would like to bring my presentation to an end. And then I believe that our panel of experts will take this conversation deeper. Let's make the best of the next hour. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Kofi Dochi, for that strong technical foundation. So you've clearly demonstrated why buildings are such a critical focus area, accounting for a significant share of energy consumption and emissions, yet offering substantial opportunities for cost savings and efficiency gains. You also highlighted an important point that energy performance is directly linked to emissions. By managing energy consumption, organizations are not only reducing costs, but also creating a credible pathway for tracking and reducing emissions over time. And importantly, achieving this at scale requires collaboration across the entire ecosystem. So regulators, developers, facility managers, financiers, everyone basically plays a role. Thank you so much, Engineer Dochi. So with that context, we'll now shift into the panel discussion to explore what this means from policy, regulation, design, operations, and implementation, and also environmental, social, and governance perspective. And most importantly, I think that's why most of us are here today. What can we do next? So let me dive into our panel for today. Our panelists for today. I'm going to introduce each and every one of them. The first on the list is Architect Foster Osei Akuno. He is a lead founder of the Ghana Green Building Council and immediate past president of the Ghana Institute of Architects. architect of Foster Osei Akuno, is a seasoned architect and sustainability champion with almost 30 years of local and international experience across Ghana and the United States. He's a graduate of the Department of Architecture from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. He holds an executive MBA in strategy from the Drucker School of Management, Claremont Graduate University, with additional executive training in global strategy and trade from the Oxford University. He is a principal architect of Atos Synergio, where his work spans master planning, including eco-communities, civic, cultural, industrial, educational, healthcare, hospitality, commercial, and residential development. His hallmark lies in design excellence that integrates form, functionality, detailing, and sustainability. A pioneer in green building in Ghana, architect Foster Osei Akuno is a founding lead of the Green Building Council. Under his leadership, Eco Communities National Framework was developed and later incorporated into the Ghana National Housing Policy in 2015. He also played key roles in national standards development, including contribution to the Ghana Green Building Code in 2018, sustainable public procurement guidelines, and accessibility standards for the built environment. Architect Foster is really a champion of green energy, green building sustainability, and he's all about how efficient buildings and everything should be. We are grateful to have architect Foster Osei Akuno as part of our panelists from the green building angle. The next on our panelist is Engineer Eunice Bichum, who is an energy expert. Engineer Eunice Bichum is an independent energy expert. She is a distinguished energy expert and business leader with over 3 decades of experience in power generation, energy policy, and strategic consulting. She holds a Master of Science in Electrical Engineering and an MBA in Management, equipping her with both technical expertise and strategic acumen. She has held key leadership across the energy sector, including Associate Director at the Deloitte and Touch, where she led the establishment of an energy consulting segment and spearheaded major projects in Ghana and Sierra Leone. Engineer Bichum was actually my former boss. Also, as the Outcome 1 lead for the USAID Power Africa West Africa Energy Program, she played a crucial role in driving policy reforms and infrastructure development across the region. Previously, Eunice served as the Chief Executive Officer of Senate Energy Limited, where she successfully led the company from startup to full operations, overseeing plant construction, contract negotiations, and regulatory compliance. She also served as a project director at the Tema Osuno plant and global marketing manager at Cummins Power Generation in the USA. Until very recently, she was the acting executive secretary of the Energy Commission, where she provided strategic leadership, technical and administrative direction for the achievement of the Commission's mandate to regulate and manage the development and utilization of energy resources in Ghana and helping the country achieve its energy transition agenda. She's also an advocate for women's participation and leadership in the energy sector, and she's very passionate about recognizing women's contribution and impact in the sector. She's also a strong advocate for increased participation and leadership of women in the energy sector. The next on our panel is Mr. Herbert Zan, who is the manager for energy efficiency regulation at the Energy Commission. So Herbert Zan serves as the manager for energy efficiency regulation within the Renewables and Energy Efficiency Directorate of the Ghana Energy Commission, and is recognized as the energy transformation expert. With over a decade of experience, he has led enforcement of national energy efficiency standards and environmental regulations, including the phase out of CFC and CFC-based cooling appliances and the phase down of HFC. The CFCs are many here. When he comes on board, he's going to explain all that to us. Driven by a vision to eliminate inefficient and obsolete appliances across Africa, Hubert champions a sustainable practice through initiatives like Stop Dumping. He is Ghana's focal point for the Eco-Fridges Go project, which introduces innovative financing to make high-efficiency appliances accessible and actively advocates for super efficient cooling under the SEAD initiative and the Global Cooling Pledge. He's basically an advocate for energy transition, that is being efficient with our energy appliances, especially with air conditions. Beyond appliances, Hubert promotes energy efficiency in buildings and industry, advancing green public procurement and resilient design principles to ensure that energy efficient and climate resilient buildings become the new normal across Africa. The next on our panel is Engineer Eko Kofi, who is an environmental, social, and governance ESG and decarbonization specialist here with us in Deloitte. So Engineer Kofi is a strategic ESG and decarbonization expert with over 15 years of experience leading large-scale energy transitions and sustainable infrastructure programs across 15 sub-Saharan African nations. He blends strong technical grounding as an electrical engineer with a strategic program leadership, delivering impactful work in renewable energy, utility reform, digitalization, and inclusive economic growth. Specialized in bridging the gap between technical engineering and environmental governance to drive inclusive low carbon growth. He also has a proven track record in securing over $2 million in green development funding and spearheading high-profile interventions, including national sustainability strategies and multi-country renewable energy 100 compliance. His experience spans partnerships with national government, utilities, and development agencies, including leading high-profile assignments such as the FCDO-funded ETSA Revenue Protection Pilot and T4 Customer Management Project in Sierra Leone. He also led the FAO-funded solar-powered irrigation feasibility study across 44 communities in northern Ghana, and also led the development of the Ghana Gas Sustainability Strategy. He has also provided technical leadership on the World Bank-funded Gesture project for NEDCO, the Nestle Central West African Region RE 100 Compliance Review, and multiple utility performance and organizational projects in Sierra Leone and Ghana. Engineer Eko Kofi is a senior manager here in Deloitte with the technology and transformation team as well. The next on the panel would have been Engineer Seth Mahu, but as he mentioned during his keynote address, he's going to send someone to be in his place for the discussions. The moment he sends who will be his replacement, I'll bring his profile up as well. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, and I look forward to a very engaging discussion. Now, my first question goes to Hubert. So, Mr. Hassan, from Energy Commission's perspective, what are the most important regulatory shifts affecting buildings right now, particularly around cooling standards, compliance expectations, and what stakeholders should do to prepare?
Thank you very much, Engineer Mavis, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are listening and watching us from. Since this is the first time I'm taking the platform, I would like to thank Deloitte for this wonderful opportunity to share what the Energy Commission is doing. And as the keynote speaker rightly said, as well as presentations that were made, the Energy Commission is a government regulatory organization set under an Act of Parliament, Act 541. And our major mandate is to make sure that the energy resources, regardless of where the source is used judiciously. And as you can rightly see, buildings is one of the high demanding electricity when it comes to consumption. And the Energy Commission looked at not just buildings, but also the kind of equipment that are stored in buildings. So rightly said, the Energy Commission took the initial step to come up with standards and labeling, because predominantly Ghana used to be a market of used second-hand appliances. And you can imagine having these high consuming appliances, which we call energy guzzlers, consuming so much in buildings. So we had to set a minimum performance standards and also look at the kind of quality of appliances that are being installed in these homes. As we go on, I'm sure we'll go into the details of what these appliances are and probably what is being done. Aside the appliances, we also looked at the space of coming up with demand-side management. And demand-side management was one of the actions of introducing CFLs to replace the old incandescent bulb. I'm sure the listeners remember the onion bulbs we used to have producing warm, lights. This was inefficient, and we had to replace it with CFL as way back as 2008. And that saved the country over 124 megawatts in terms of ideally power that would have been generated through a thermal plant. So these are significant changes Energy Commission has made. We also did the rebate, as the speaker rightly mentioned, replacing the inefficient refrigerators with efficient ones. And this was done in 2012. But you know that with appliances, technology keeps on changing. Therefore, as a regulator, we need to catch up with technology. And so that was the reason why we had to go back to Parliament to review the air condition and refrigerator regulation, which we'll discuss later in the course, and then also introduce 17 more appliances, ranging from household to industry, where we have distribution transformers, electric motors, ventilating fans, to also looking at renewable energy products, where we have set minimum performance for solar panels, inverters, batteries, because all of this have a form of integration when you are looking at the building construction. So the Energy Commission has put in place the policies as far as appliances are concerned. We are now at the next stage of coming up with some strategy of implementing energy efficiency by looking at what the whole atmosphere or ecosystem is. And as we go on, we'll speak about it. So first of all, I would like to congratulate the Ghana Standards Authority for taking the bold step to come up with a building code. That is the base document which would look at all issues relating to buildings in terms of specifications, standards that are supposed to be met. And then also looking at the regulatory aspect, where the Ministry of Works and Housing came up with the building regulation. Now, in this building regulation, specific reference has been made in the schedules to institutions that will be issuing permits as far as building is concerned. The Energy Commission has been identified as one of the regulators to issue permits in buildings. So the question is, what kind of permit is the Energy Commission seeking to issue as far as building is concerned? So we will be focusing more on the energy efficiency aspect, where we'll be taking existing building code formats that have been created by the Ghana Building Code, and then also riding on the building energy efficiency guideline that was created in collaboration with the EPA, Environmental Protection Authority, meant for implementation by the Energy Commission and the Ministry of Works and Housing. These guidelines state categorically what buildings should look out for as far as energy efficiency is concerned. And these can go into the design of the building, the kind of materials to be used, the kind of appliances that will be installed in these buildings, and also the policy engagement. So, Mavis, I think to know exactly what the Energy Commission is doing, we are creating the regulatory atmosphere, knowing very well that regulators usually set technical barriers. But this time around, the Energy Commission is not seeking to cause barriers, but turn these barriers into incentives. And I'm sure as we go on, I'll be able to elaborate more on exactly what we have done in turning the barriers into incentives, looking at the energy efficiency in building space. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zan. That is why today's conversation or today's webinar is very timely. Energy Commission is actually strengthening enforcement on cooling systems and appliances while national green building standards are emerging. So now it won't be just getting to the shop and say you're buying an AC and you can just pick any AC at all and go and install. No. Now you have to make sure that your AC is energy efficient. And Energy Commission is really driving this and they are really putting a lot of efforts into this. So very soon it will be very mandatory. You can't just use an inefficient appliance or an AC. So thank you so much for that, Mr. Zan. We'll surely come back to continue with that conversation. All right. So architect Osaya Akuno, in Ghana's climate, what are the design and planning choices being the champion of the green building guidelines? You are the one who created and led the green building code. What are some of the design and planning choices that mostly strongly determine long-term energy performance, especially cooling demand? And how can developers achieve this without significantly increasing upfront costs?
All right.
Hello, Mr. Oseakuno.
Yeah.
Please, did you hear me?
Yes. Thank you, Deloitte. Thank you for this program. And let me thank the participants who are here as well. To start with, energy efficiency in buildings, I think the most important thing is the mindset of the team. One, having the right team, having the right mindset, and then the needed finances for the development. Once these three key things are aligned, then a lot can be achieved. So you have a developer who will say, I'm interested in reducing energy in my buildings or my developments. Then he selects the right team of architects, planners, engineers, among others, who are also like-minded and are ready to achieve the objective and then the needed finances. Having said that, there are, and I'll consider these three things are the low-hanging fruits once you're able to pick them. Having said that, the critical thing that you may not pay anything for, it's what we'll term passive design strategies. And one will ask, what are these strategies? So you see, you do not, we say one size does not fit all. You wouldn't want to pick a building from site A and place it at site B, thinking that they will perform the same. No, there are conditions, environmental conditions, climatic conditions that have effect on orientation. So one of the key things, and it is primary, it's a no-brainer, is the orientation. In our setting, and I'm talking about Ghana, the predominant is what we call north-south orientation. And once that is achieved, it means a greater part of the work in terms of energy efficiency has already been achieved. Having done that, then you look at shading, making sure that you reduce the solar ingress into the building. And from shading, you would want to look at the thermal mass of the building. Remember that I've not mentioned any equipment. I've not mentioned air conditioning, because these are not key here to start with. You would want to design a building that will use less energy to cool the building. So once you put these basic strategies in place. So thermal mass, it's what's it called? The thicker the material, the slower it is for the heat transfer through the outside, from the outside through the building into the inside. So you look at thermal mass. And then also, how do you shade your building to reduce the solar ingress into the building. Then we come to lighting. Most homes, and I would want to say most homes in Ghana, as soon as you enter the porch, you have to turn on the light, forgetting that as soon as you turn the light, you are consuming electricity, and it's money that you are spending. So drawing natural light that you are not paying for into the building is key. And that means that it will also help to improve the indoor environment quality of the building. So having put all these strategies in place, which we call basic or passive design strategies, then you'll be looking at the equipment and other things that are needed to make sure that the building functions well. And once developers and or the entire team, because at the end of the day, it is the team that is making sure that this is achieved, and each of them bring his or her expertise on board. What we've identified here over the years is that everybody is a builder. Everybody think that they understand buildings, when in actual sense, they do not understand the science, the arts and science of buildings. So you have a developer, I will use that word loosely. Have a developer thinking, oh, I have my money. I wouldn't want to, I've built one building, and it means I can do it. I would want to say that most of these decisions that are taken by them without bringing the right team in place cost them a lot of money. At the end of the day, it is cheaper to have the right team right from the beginning. It will reduce cost eventually when you look at the life cycle cost. It will reduce cost eventually, because the right team will be able to provide you with the necessary strategies in terms of design, in terms of implementation, in terms of construction, operations, and maintenance, for you to achieve the needed reduction in your building. Knowing very well that about 46% of energy usage in our buildings is attributed to the residential facilities. And you go around, do an audit, and you realize that it becomes, what's it called? Most of them are towing the same line without paying particular attention to the design, without paying particular attention to even insulating the walls, insulating the roofs, insulating the floors, recessing the windows, providing double glazing, among others, which will help reduce which will help reduce the energy use in the building. So in simple terms, this is how developers can eventually reduce the energy use in the building and contribute to, positively to curbing the climate change menace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Architect Foster. Thank you for that highlight. So a major takeaway from what you mentioned was that investing in the right multidisciplinary team early ultimately reduces the life cycle cost and improves long-term building performance. I also appreciate the point that energy efficiency must extend beyond design into implementation, operation, and maintenance. Thank you so much, Architect. We'll surely come back with follow-up questions. So, Engineer Bichum, so in buildings that you've seen, where do organizations typically lose the most energy? And what are the quickest interventions that deliver measurable savings?
Good morning to you, Mavis, and good morning to all the participants and fellow panelists or colleagues. It's a pleasure to be here this morning and to work with my former team at Deloitte on this very important topic this morning. I've been writing copious notes as the colleague panelists have been talking, and thank you very much for the opportunity. So with respect to buildings that we've seen, based off of some work that we've done in the past, especially under the USAID's West Africa Energy Program, obviously energy audits, as has been said before, are recommended in helping to establish areas of energy losses in buildings. In commercial buildings, the biggest energy losses are usually associated with the cooling in the buildings. And these losses can stem from not having airtight spaces where cooling is in place, so that there are leakages where warm air can get introduced into the cool spaces, or where the cooled air leaks outside to the warmer environment. And then in many offices, you can find that the temperature controls or the thermostats are set very low to 20 degrees Celsius and below, while studies have shown that the ambient temperature typically will not go below about 25 degrees, between 25 to 27 degrees, will not go below that. And so your air conditioner is then working very hard to maintain that temperature, resulting in higher energy usage. And really you could, attribute that to a loss, because you shouldn't have to be working so hard to cool your space or to achieve the comfort that you desire. Another area that we find out is lack of and also infrequent maintenance of our ACs in particular and other cooling devices such as fans, causing them to work more inefficiently over time, and also leading to higher energy usage and the resulting higher costs. So a second area where most people may not necessarily think about is losses that can occur when plug-in loads in working spaces are not turned off, where they are not going to be in use for an extended period of time. And I'm referring to the PCs, printers, and the like in our commercial buildings. And in this case, I'm not talking about residential, I'm looking at mostly the office spaces. Interestingly, the plug-in loads use commensurate amounts, and sometimes even higher an amount of energy than the cooling devices do. So it should be an area of focus when we're looking at energy losses or where energy losses most occur in commercial buildings as part of an energy audit. I think with that, I'll stop here, and I'm sure we'll be talking more about some of these topics as the panel discussion progresses. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Bichum. So we've covered regulation, design, and operations. Engineer Kokofi, Can you bring this together from an ESG and finance standpoint? How do we make this investable and reportable?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mavis, for having me. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are connecting from. I think we've heard quite very interesting insights on the progress what Ghana has been making so far in the energy efficiency space. Just to, from the way the discussions have gone, right? I mean, the focus, or it appears to be, yes, a national concern. I mean, I just saw somebody also ask a question about enabling environment and all of that. So I want to just give some bit of context, and then I will loop in how financing and compliance and reporting um, could be done to assess the need finance for energy efficiency projects. So it's quite the problem or the challenge with energy efficiency is quite alarming. I'll take it from the African perspective, right? First of all, I mean, we all know, I mean, this is quite information that has been available. 600 million of the Africa population do not have access to electricity, right? If you look at IEA reports, right, one of the things that it says is that you need about 26 gigawatts of generation every year. And currently we are doing about 8 gigawatts. So it means that the rate at which generation is building or is coming up is too slow. It's not catching up with the demand, right? So energy efficiency presents a very good opportunity, as we saw with what was done in Ghana during the replacement of the incandescent bulbs. In just 1 year, we were able to save 124 megawatts, right? So it presents a very significant opportunity. Recently, the African Energy Commission in Ethiopia launched the Africa Energy Efficiency Strategy, which seems to scale most of the things that our Energy Commission have done here in Ghana. Is going to look at replacement, is looking at the minimum energy performance standards for electrical appliances. So there is an increase in cost, and there is funding available for this. Now, if you come to our national context also, there is an alarming concern. If you look at our recent electricity outlook reports, right, our demand averages around 4,000. I mean, with a projection for this year, 4,300 megawatts. Dependable generation has been projected to be lower. I mean, looking at fuel availability, looking at transmission capacity, looking at losses and all of that. So what it means is that, and what we know by practice or experience is that the rate at which investment in generation will catch up is also quite slow. So clearly, like what various speakers have said, energy efficiency presents a very, very good opportunity. Now, if you come to businesses, you and I, right, what we are also plagued by is high cost of electricity, right? Currently, cost of electricity for the 300 kilowatts band to 600 band, which is the tariff structure which Ghana operates, is about $2, right? $2 per kilowatt. So it's about 276. We just look at about 11 conversion. It's just about that. So it means that cost of electricity is also increasing. Even if you decide to deploy renewable energy, renewable solar PV has a finite source. So it means that if you want to invest in solar PV, you will have to do something about your energy consumption. Otherwise, your associated cost of investment will be very high. Now, that said, right, what has happened within the sector so far? One, what we know is that Energy Commission, yes, indeed, is doing a lot of work in creating the enabling environment. It has come up with all these minimum energy performance. They have been building energy codes, right? Government also, we know they've done the CFL, they've done the incandescent, they've done the refrigerator rebate scheme, right? Now, but how can we ensure that this is sustainable? I think from a sustainable perspective, you need an ecosystem that drives on its own. And one of the missing, or I will not just use missing, but probably dormant hold of it has been the financing aspect of it. So we did an energy efficiency assessment during the West African Energy Program of some hospitals and some facilities. Right now, you come up with nice proposals. I mean, you show clearly the savings that can be realized. And then the next thing you realize, they don't have that money or that upfront cost for investment. You approach the banks, the bulk of these projects are very low. They don't meet the minimum threshold to be able to access the loans, right? Now, and banks to, I mean, until recently that you have the banks stepping up, there's not been any key driver. So, but there's changing regulation framework, even from a global perspective. So we know of the IFRS 1 and 2, which is now mandating organizations to disclose their climate interventions and how they are contributing to emission reduction. So for the bank in particular, which will be required to solve that bottleneck, one, there's also the Bank of Ghana sustainability requirements, right? And in the scope 3 emissions, scope 3 emissions is basically how you estimate your carbon footprint. So they have the scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. The fifth one is the investments, and that is really the critical aspect, the investment component. So it means that banks are supposed to deploy loans, right, that on in the long term or will have favorable contribution to the climate. So they will have to disclose associated emission reductions, energy efficiency compliance, renewable energy investments, right? So it means that the regulatory framework is also very enabling. And the ESG framework is enabling all of these things to come together. Now, what really is missing? What is missing is that most banks don't have that capacity, right, to assess energy efficient projects that will attract the needed investment. Now, you also have technical experts who present proposals that are very, very technical and biased and do not necessarily give a certain long-term guarantee. Let me give you an instance. One of the key parties of energy, or one of the key approaches of energy efficiency is prior to measurements, most of the time, there are rule of thumbs. So you use square foot, you say an area has a square foot of this size, and then you say that based on that rule of thumb, you save this amount of energy if you replace, because they say 25,000 BTU of cooling per 1 square feet, right? But to attract investments, you need measurement and verification. So that should also change from the energy auditor's perspective, right? So one, Seth mentioned that we don't necessarily need new technology, but an approach to bring all of these together to ensure that everybody is taking advantage. Listen, we can easily have a win-win framework where we meet our ITAMOS requirements, where Energy Commission is able to create an enabling environment, banks are able to access the needed funding, and comply with all the climate disclosures requirements, and then energy auditors also have a win, and then you, the building owner, the facility owner, you also are able to cut down on your high cost of electricity. So standards are very key, protocols are very key, and the ESG framework is addressing this huge gap, and there will be the need to build that capacity to ensure that there's a strong match that guarantees that this huge finance that is made available can be accessed to drive and implement some of these energy efficiency projects. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Kofi, for that. So one key takeaway or one strong insight that I got from what you've mentioned is that energy efficiency is not only about design equipment, but also maintenance and operational behavior over the building's lifetime. I also appreciated the emphasis on the often overlooked plug loads and idle office equipment as hidden contributions to energy waste. Thank you so much for that. We'll surely come back to you. Okay. So, Engineer Maho, I've noticed you are back. Please, are you able to talk now? Is it? Hello, Engineer Mao. Okay, I guess he's not back. All right. All right. So let's move to Mr. Zan. Yeah, as a follow-up question. Hello, Mr. Zan. Can you hear me?
Yes, maybe I can hear you.
Wonderful. Now, as a follow-up question and looking ahead, what upcoming enforcement or regulatory shifts should organizations prepare for now to avoid future cost and compliance risk?
Right. So as I indicated, the Energy Commission being the regulator usually will come up with various kinds of policies. And unfortunately, these are usually seen as technical barriers. However, we realize that a lot of things are happening in the building space, as Engineer Foster rightly mentioned. But these are sitting in silos, and you realize that you don't have a clear strategy to harmonize these activities that are happening. Example, like I mentioned, is the building code that has been developed by the Ghana Standards Authority. You have the building regulation by Ministry of Works and Housing. You have the building energy efficiency guidelines developed by the Environmental Protection Agency. And you have the Energy Commission mandated to regulate energy resources. So if you are somebody in the built environment space, the question is, where do you go to as far as building energy efficiency is concerned? And so this is one of the key things the Energy Commission is trying to harmonize and make sure that we have clearly identified our stakeholders, put them together, and have a harmonized approach where it becomes a one-stop. You come to the regulator and you are able to get access or information to the various energy sectors. So we believe in what we like to term as the quadruple helix model, where we are focusing on 4 key stakeholders: government agencies, which I just gave examples, harmonizing the activities together, and coming up with a roadmap on how the process should be done. So in terms of the government agency, the Energy Commission is clearly working with the Office of the Head of Local Government to engage the MMDAs, because by law, these are the people who are supposed to enforce the building code. And so now that we have identified and teased out energy efficiency measures from the building code, we believe that these MMDAs need to be trained. We look at the works department, the spatial planning, so that they can incorporate all of this, number one, in the building permit regime, and then also in the inspection process. So this is what the Energy Commission is trying to do. And as we speak, we are even having a training session to engage the MMDAs on what this new policy guide and training information is on as far as energy efficiency is concerned. We also believe that the industry is important, and the industry, we mean the developers. Architect Foster mentioned that anybody who gets up wants to put up a structure because he believes he's a builder. But there is a science behind putting up a structure. And these signs must be guided by some, roadmaps and some standards. So we are also looking at engaging the architects, engaging, the craftsmen, engaging all those who are relevant as far as the built environment space is concerned, to discuss the building energy efficiency guideline document that has been developed, teasing out the building code, which is a bigger document, so that these actions can be taken for them. We are also looking at engaging academia. Again, we talked about data. What is the average consumption of buildings? We don't seem to have these things sitting readily. But you know that the real estate is coming up. A lot of infrastructure is being put up in terms of building for real estate. Hospitals are being built. Hotels are being built. And these are high consuming infrastructure as far as cooling is concerned. And not just cooling, but also even the design of the building is also looking at consuming a lot. So we are seeing the building as a demand on the grid, and clear effort needs to be looked at, and clear action needs to be taken to be able to make sure that we are reducing the consumption of this new infrastructure that are coming up in the various areas. And we think that academia is very important, because students of KNUST, Kumasi Technical University, all universities that are looking at courses relating to the building, we need to engage them, engage the students to know the opportunities that are there, and then what can be done as far as government has put in measures in place. We also, and I'm sure you are aware of the sustainable energy centers, where professionals are now being trained, sustainable energy management professionals, energy auditors, so that this activity can be done in a professional manner. In addition to that, we are trying to come up with a certification scheme that will make buildings mandatory to conduct energy audit. Because the question is, after people have been trained in this profession, what is the guarantee for the work to be done? And so a clear effort has to be made, tying what we are doing as certification scheme for energy auditors, energy assessors, performance assessors, looking at energy managers certification scheme, and then tying it to another regulation which has been passed. So I'm glad to announce to your audience that the Energy Commission has come up with what we call the Energy Performance Certification Regulation. And this regulation is going to look at residential and existing buildings, trying to look at the efficiency of these buildings, tying it to the electrical wiring program that we are doing, and then also tying it to the renewable energy promotion the Energy Commission is doing. Mavis, if we don't come up with a clear strategy of tying these activities together, I'm afraid it's going to be in silos. And a building by structure contains wiring. It contains energy efficient appliances, or the appliances we are regulating. It will require integration of renewable energy. The Energy Commission is doing all of these things. And so how do we harmonize all of this and make sure that the built environment space where somebody is going into is able to guide himself to be able to do the right thing? The last of the stakeholders we have engaged is the media. And we believe that the media plays a very critical role in spreading the information. And media does not just mean radio or TV station. This webinar is very important. Knowing the caliber of audience that you have, also hearing, I'm sure some are hearing for the first time, that there is an energy performance certification regulation that is being developed to look at residential and existing buildings, mandating buildings to comply with energy efficiency designs, even though architects already have that in concept, but there will now be a regulatory measure that says that this is the minimum floor area, this is the minimum energy consumption we are looking per floor area, and all of that. So these things are being put in place to be able to make sure that the built environment space is guided and made professional. With regards to designs, Engineer Foster, architect, mentioned that passive cooling is one of the easiest means that you can use to reduce the mechanical cooling demand. But how is that playing out? Does an architect just design, and what happens to another architect who does not consider that? If I have my building and I say, because I pay my bills, I don't care how I design my building, I put a strain on the grid in terms of what I'll be consuming. And that is why we are putting these measures in place to be able to guide that. So to summarize all of this, Energy Commission is not just looking at appliances. Energy Commission has a scheme that is looking at appliances. We are looking at electrical wiring professionals. We are looking at renewable energy integration. And we are roping all of this together into the built environment space by coming up with an energy performance certification in buildings that will mandate residential and then existing buildings to comply with some kind of specific energy consumption per floor area as it becomes. And then we would also look at trying to certify and make it professional. Energy auditors, energy managers, energy performance assessors, so that there is a professional career which is sustainable, that when you finish such a course, there is an avenue for you to be able to take this up. And I would like to congratulate the Ghana Institute of Engineering, because they have partnered with the Energy Commission with these sustainable energy centers. And these are some of the collaborations we want to be seeing happening, so that the built environment space can be made very, very exciting. And not just because we are regulators, we are putting in barriers to defeat the purpose of putting up energy efficient buildings.
Thank you so much, Hubert. You've answered most of our questions. You've rounded it all up very nicely. Thank you so much. Now, Architect Foster, just a question for you to answer briefly for us. Our time is a bit limited, so I would like you to just briefly touch on how do we encourage developers to prioritize envelope performance before installing mechanical cooling systems? If you can briefly answer that for us.
All right. Thank you, Mavis. Developers. I think the major thing, it's two things. One, the mindset change, and then two, enforcement. Enforcement is very, very weak. And for me, I think the main reason for that is the non-availability of the right skill sets or the right professionals at the assemblies. Since they are the managers of the built environment per Act 936, the Local Governance Act. The assemblies do not have the needed professionals to do development control. And if that is not done, then the developers will do their own thing. You go to a lot of communities and they are not livable. You cannot walk on the street without any conflict with vehicles. You cannot safely walk without being hit by the sun. You see, we call something sustainable site development. We know how our developers go around cutting existing trees, grading entire acreage of land before commencing their development. What that is, it's not the building envelope. You'll be looking at heat island, which is generated, which affects the building, because once the heat island is generated, the microclimatic condition in the area changes completely. So mindset is very key, and also to make sure that the right personnel are found at the assembly, so the development control function that they are supposed to do is done effectively. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Architect Foster. Thank you for that. So time is fast running, so we'd like to just go straight into the Q&A session. So audience, if you have a question, we'll take two from the audience, then we'll read two from the chat box as well. So audience, if you have any question, kindly raise your hand, unmute, and ask your question. Hello, Marna. Please go ahead with your question. Hello, Marna. Can you? Hello, Mr. Robson. Please go ahead. Please ask your question. Manuel Robson, please ask your question.
Okay, now, because I was waiting for access to be able to unmute. There are a few observations. There's an observation I've made, and that in all these discussions, for example, MIDA doesn't has not been talked about, and for me, Maunyo, who has worked tirelessly and led activities under the MIDA Compact, I think it would be unfair. So I just want to make that observation and also to indicate that MIDA, for example, was directly involved in establishing the standards and labels and also developing the allies that should follow. We also were involved in energy efficiency establishment in schools, and more importantly, setting up auditing centers at tertiary institutions. In fact, the ones that we have here in UST and all.
Can you hear us?
Hello? Can you?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
And then street lighting, in order to be able to reduce, street lighting consumption. So that's a very key role that MIDA played, and I think it's important to mention that. Hello? Hello?
Hello, Maunyo.
Yes, Maunyo, we can hear you.
No, so I'm done. That was just an observation.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
Right.
So maybe do I make a quick intervention and
yes, go ahead.
apologize to Maunyo. I think that we cannot talk about the success of these regulations I mentioned without MIDA, as you rightly indicated. But probably for purpose of time, to mention all the stakeholders will be out of place. But MIDA indeed led Energy Commission to be able to pass all these regulations I mentioned, including even the sustainable energy centers I just mentioned, looking at collaborating with academia. So sorry, Maunyo, for not specifically indicating the source of this success, but indeed we cannot talk about all this success without mentioning what MIDA did. And I must just add that you also helped us with a testing facility to be able to test the air condition and refrigerators, which is one of its kind in sub-Saharan Africa. And so again, another success Ghana is chalking, and AFREC is hoping to replicate Ghana's example for the African Union space as well as ECOWAS. So thank you very much, Maunyo.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mauno, and thank you, Zan, for answering that. So in the interest of time, we'll go to the chat box and then read some of the questions there. And I'll appeal to the panelists that any question that you feel appeals to you, then you answer. So the first question is, someone is asking, do we have a reference guide for the various emission factors? If so, where can it be obtained? I think this question should go to ECHO. Engineer Kofi.
Yeah, so the Greenhouse Gas Management Institute, you can just visit their website. You can have all the emission factors for scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 over there. But for Ghana, for the electricity, the savings in the grid electricity, you can get it from the Energy Commission Energy Outlook reports. I think they put the emission factors over there.
Yes, Echo. And then maybe they can also check the Energy Commission's energy statistics, where we have some grid emission factors for RE.
All right, thank you so much. Now, another question, I think this will go to Engineer Brichum. Someone is asking, how is an audit undertaken for residences? What is measured and how are they measured? What are the major energy consumers?
Okay, thank you, Mavis. So for the residential space, I mean, if you were to conduct an audit, obviously, first of all, if I could mention, there are 3 levels of audits that can be done. I mean, for a residential space, you probably could start with what is as a walkthrough audit, where you would look at your electricity bills, look at the different appliances that you have in the house. And Energy Commission has put together, there's a cheat sheet I call that talks about the different appliances within the household and how much energy they consume. So you would have some idea of that, just to give you a sense of what your usage within the house. And then for a residential space, you probably would not be doing specific measurements of all the appliances that you have. So you would use some rules of thumb. Then also, fortunately, because of the star ratings that the Energy Commission has developed over time, it would give you some idea, especially of your air conditioners and your refrigeration, how much energy you consume there. So that would give you basically an idea. The walkthrough audit is usually a much lower cost assessment that can be done. If you want to take it to the next level as a residential entity, then we would have to do some more detailed analysis of your bills, of the equipment that you have, and that tends to cost more money. But from a rule of thumb, as we know, as we've mentioned for the commercial buildings, again, in your home, cooling is a big proportion of energy usage in our homes. So one of the things that could come out of that audit, for instance, is a recommendation for you to, if you can, do the investment to increase the energy efficiency rating of the appliances that you have, your air conditioners, and then your refrigeration appliances. And then also, as was mentioned before in the presentation and has been touched on at different times, looking at your lighting loads. And again, for existing buildings, one of the avenues that you could take is where you have incandescent lamps or even CFLs to make sure that you're replacing those with LED bulbs because those are more energy efficient and could help. So these are just a few areas that we can look at. Another area, just to sensitize people, the heating loads tend to consume a lot of electricity. So your iron, for instance, consumes a lot of electricity. Microwaves also do same. If you have an electric stove, that also consumes quite a bit of electricity. So one of the things that we recommend and that I try to do personally at home is turning on an iron and making sure that you are ironing several items at once and not just turning on an item for just one item of clothing each time. Then you consume quite a bit of electricity in your home. So these are just a few tips. I hope that helps. Thank you, Mavis.
Thank you so much, Engineer Bichum. So, Zan, there's one on policy here. One Marvin also is asking, why are policy frameworks and energy efficiency strategies not doing more to encourage widespread residential renewable energy adoption under such conditions? And he learned there are solar ACs around. How is the government and stakeholders buying into this idea?
Exactly. So thank you very much. And his observation is right. Technology is changing, and we now have a lot of DC appliances being introduced into the world of technology. What we are doing, like I mentioned, is that we have a lot of policies, regulations in silos, and these need to be put together. So, for example, we are promoting renewable energy, and therefore integrating renewable energy in buildings is very critical. So once you tie the integration parts of renewables into the building, that is considered in coming up with the performance of the building. And so I'm very glad that this EPC, Energy Performance Certification in Building, will become a tool or a regulatory policy that will let architects, designers, building operators consider all of these things that will indeed avoid consumption from the grid to be able to reduce their specific energy consumptions per floor area. So if you install a solar air conditioner, definitely you are going to cut away a whole lot of energy consumption from the grid-tied one, the ones that are connected to the mains. So these are opportunities available, but like I said, it will become individual interest in implementing these things. But once the regulation is passed and it becomes law, these things will be considered to be able to meet this minimum or specific energy consumption per floor areas we are coming up with. And then also improving and getting the right ratings. So to put it in perspective, the labels you are seeing for appliances, 1 star up to 7 star, is going to be designed in the form of a certification for buildings, where buildings will be rated going forward based on the specific energy consumption of these buildings. And such equipment will be considered to improve the performance of the buildings.
All right. Thank you so much, Hubert. So there's Daniel Acham, your hand is up. Kindly unmute and ask your question. I think we are having a little technical challenge with Daniel Acham. So we'll just take another question from the chat box. And then somebody is asking, is it more efficient to keep an immersion water storage heater on or to keep it off and turn on when hot water is required? If turn off, water has to be reheated. If on, just topping up. So someone is asking that. Engineer Bichum.
Hello, Mavis. Yes, if you could, you said the person was asking whether it is better to use the old.
Yeah, to keep an immersion water storage heater on or to keep it off and turned on when hot water is required. And he's saying that if it's turned off, water has to be reheated. If on, just topping up.
Yes, well, so the water heaters are one appliance that utilizes quite a bit of energy, and Hubert can confirm that as well. But to keep it on all the time, yes, you will have hot water there, but you will continue to consume some level of electricity. What I have found that works even better is to have the type of water heating where you turn it on at the time that you need and it heats the water that you need at the time. So those are now available in Ghana. They've been in Europe and other places for many years, where you can get that type of a water heating element, so that you do not have to have the old traditional tanks where you have to heat up the water and keep the water in there heated. And those tend to be what I'm talking about. These new types of water heaters tend to be a lot more energy efficient than the traditional ones that we've been used to over the years. And then even better yet is to perhaps look at the solar water heaters, where you are using, the energy from the sun. And then in which case, yes, you can have your tank with hot water that it will be warm when you need it at the end of the day, and it will stay warm in the mornings when you need that water. Thank you.
Yes, maybe just to chip in and add to what Engineer Brichum just added.
Okay.
Yeah, so what we have also observed is that Like she rightly said, the instantaneous water heaters are what are advised to be used for such purposes, especially in the kitchens. But interestingly, most of the new estates coming up, we realize that they are installing the storage water heaters in the kitchen. So again, it is about practice. It's not just about picking a technology and putting it where it's not needed, because now we are seeing square pegs in round holes. So the instantaneous water heater ideally is useful for the kitchen, where you are using it as and when. Even in the washrooms, that will be very necessary. However, if you have large storage or usage, then you can go for the storage water heaters, or better still, the solar, as Engineer Brichu mentioned, to be helpful for hotels, hospitals that are using large volumes of water for their disinfection. But for kitchen, I will advise the architects listening, please don't install the storage water heaters in kitchens as we are seeing. But perhaps when the EPC regulation is ready, we would know exactly why we are saying all of this based on the consumption per square area. Yeah. And then just to add that the water heaters are included in the regulation. So now you will see the yellow labels to determine the efficiency levels of the water heaters as well. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful, Mr. Zan. Thank you for that. All right, there's a policy question here, and I think Engineer said Mao is back. So Engineer said Mao, please, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. So there's a question here. Someone is asking, what measures is the government taking to make or develop or implement policy frameworks that ensures buildings, especially high consuming, such as factories, etc., in terms of introducing incentives, rebate, could foster this. So
All right.
basically, what is the
Okay.
government doing? Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. My sincere apologies to all participants in this webinar. So government is doing a number of things to really incentivize the market for the built environment. The Ministry of Energy has rolled out a rooftop solar program under the net metering initiative. This is meant to ensure that we integrate renewable energy in the built environment to reduce the amount of energy that buildings consume from the national grid. With that kind of intervention, building owners or the built environment stakeholders will be able to, also become prosumers, that is, producers of energy and consumers of energy at the same time. Whatever surplus energy they generate from their solar or renewable energy systems, they are able to export it into the grid under this new policy that the government has rolled out through the Ministry of Energy. And then they take that energy back based on a contractual arrangement between the owners of the asset and the service provider, that is either ECG or NETCO for that matter. We are not just allowing this to happen, we are actually giving incentives. We have provided a subsidy scheme for the first 12,000 installations that we'll be doing. So households, businesses, when they apply, they'll be given, not they can, it's mandatory. Once you qualify, you'll be given a subsidy that would discount your investment for you. We have made the process so transparent, remove the human interface so that nobody complains that it's been shortchanged or what have you. So currently there's a website that I think I'll take my time to mention, and our audience can visit the site and put in the applications. It is www.s for set, R for renewables, E for energy, P for people, G for Ghana, H for humans. So SREPGH.com. If you visit that site, it's up and running. There's a lot of information on the site that people can access. The next thing I want to say is that government has also, or the Ministry of Energy, is working with agencies under it, including Energy Commission, to begin to promote the green building, or what we call the net zero building concept. What we want to do is that we want to use improved building materials that are not high or dense energy, consumers, and promote those through real estate and other things. The first green building has been developed and commissioned at Energy Commission. The second one is being undertaken by the ministry itself, which we are hopeful that we'll finish it, all in bid to give us a template that we can use to scale this intervention. So there's a lot we are doing in this space to ensure that the built environment is green and renewable energy and energy efficiency measures are fully integrated. Of course, we are part of the team that reviewed the building code, and that document is now available, and it should be able to guide how we develop, the next generation of buildings in the country. So these are some of the things we are doing as far as incentivizing the sector is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mao, for that insightful information. So now we know that, I mean, if we want all the information on how to be sustainable, irrespective of our field of expertise, we know where to go to. We have to, I think, as individuals, we owe it upon ourselves to, I mean, do a lot of knowledge checks and all that. Get into the ministry's website, Energy Commission's website. There's a lot of information there that we can download in terms of energy efficiency, the green building stuff, and all that. So, audience, let's take it upon ourselves to really get to know what is happening and how we can also contribute to ensure a green Ghana. Now, I will take one last question from the audience. I think there was one hand that was up. Please, kindly unmute and ask your question.
Yes, thank you. I think my hand has been up for a while now, so I don't know if I can go ahead.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, so
Mention your name and your organization.
okay, my name is Emmanuel Avalum. I work with Boss Energies, and my question goes to Mr. Zhang of Energy Commission. I think some time back, somewhere 2021, I took part in the first EPC, a pilot project that they did in training some engineers and people in the built environment on EPC. And it was, we were promised some certificates and to be engaged in some pilot projects. So after the training, some few people were engaged, and we were told to hold on a bit for them to work on certain things before we get our certificates. So I just wanted to ask on a follow-up based on what he said. I know he mentioned the need for the regulatory agencies to work in harmony, but I want to know what is the plan for that project. Because I think some of us, we need refresher courses because we haven't been practicing. So that's my question.
Thank you so much, Avalu. Okay, over to you, Mr. Zan.
Yeah, so thank you very much for the question. What is Energy Commission doing in the space? You know, I mentioned that we realize that a lot of people are doing all kinds of courses relating to the built environment space, but there is no sustainability or should I say guarantee for practice. So we are trying to formalize
Okay, I think we lost Mr. Zan. There's one last question here on the green building. So, Ms. Architect Akuno, there's a question here for you. Someone is asking that you mentioned that architects are being urged to develop green building, but he wants to know what is being done to make clients agree, since most of green building equipment comes at a higher cost than the traditional.
Well, I think green buildings are not as expensive as they think. Like I said in my introductory, putting the right team together and having the right mindset to start with. Once you even apply the basic or the passive design strategies, half of the work is done. So I will encourage developers to go to the professionals and don't think that they will be cutting corners to save cost. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, in the interest of time, we bring the Q&A session to an end. We'll close this segment with a lightning round, one sentence each from each panelist. So the question is, what is this? Your submission should be just very brief and just a single sentence. What is the most important action your target stakeholder should take in the next 90 days to improve energy efficiency? So I will start with Architect Foster, since you're already on. Please go ahead.
All right, I'll encourage the entire stakeholders to use professionals, especially architects, and have the right mindset when it comes to their development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Architect Foster. Engineer Kofi.
Yeah, so I will support first of all what Mr. Foster said, and also encourage the audience to be very familiar with the associated standards and protocols, right? Especially if you are thinking of assessing financing. I will just mention one of them. There's in the International Performance Measurement and Verification Protocol by the Efficiency Evaluation Organization. And that is what most of these donor agencies use to ensure compliance, right, in providing funds. And that's what even the banks use to also will report on the item 15 of the scope 3 emissions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Kofi. Engineer Bichum.
So I would urge our stakeholders to become more aware of energy usage and energy efficiency. A quick anecdote is when we conducted the energy audits of the hospitals, one of the hospital administrators took the advice that we were giving her staff and took it home, and proudly later on told us how much money she had saved on her electricity bill because she had encouraged her whole household to make sure that they were being more cognizant of turning off lights, turning off, making sure that they were not unduly using the ions where they didn't need it, and basically being more energy conscious users. The country definitely needs it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Bichum. Mr. Zan.
Yes.
We lost you a moment. Sorry about
Yes,
that.
sorry for that. Yes. So
Mhm.
I would say, first of all, that energy efficiency, as established by the IEA, is the first fuel. What it means is that it's a low-hanging fruit which can be looked at in demand-side management. And this should not just be focused on appliances. We can look at it in buildings, decarbonizing buildings, industries, and then even transport, where we are promoting electric vehicles. So I would urge all the stakeholders who are here to pay attention to the regulatory space, not looking at it as a barrier, but more of an incentive. And if there are ideas of improving and harmonizing what we should do, we believe that the doors of the Energy Commission is open for that, and we must make this work as a low-hanging fruit. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zan. So last but not the least, Mr. Mahu. Engineer said Mahu.
Yes, I'm listening to you.
Yeah, we want a last statement from you. What is the most important action you'd want your target stakeholders should take in the next 90 days to improve energy efficiency?
All right. So I would want to say that, look, the issues about climate change is real, and demand for energy in Ghana is growing. Investment in new generation assets is a challenge. Existing infrastructure is so constrained. Therefore, we want to embrace energy efficiency just as we embrace major infrastructure projects. Let's be deliberate, let's be disruptive in ensuring that in our interventions, we are paying attention to energy efficiency and we are scaling it to the level that we can see results. There are so many opportunities with the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition, and I encourage our listeners, participants in this webinar, to visit us and explore ways that we can work together to achieve better results for the sector. Thank you.
Thank you very, 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 very much, Engineer Seth Maho. Thank you all our panelists for those concise and impactful insights. What we've heard today is both clear and consistent. Energy efficiency is no longer just a technical option. It is a practical, immediate lever for managing costs, meeting regulatory expectations, and delivering measurable emission reductions. On this note, I would now like to invite our host, Sewa Atias to deliver a closing remark. Thank you.
Thank you, Mavis. Lots of food for thought. I'm sure you all agree with me. Today's discussion reinforces a simple message. Energy efficiency is one of the most practical and impactful actions we as organizations and individuals can take to manage costs and reduce emissions. In the world of energy, there's a lot of uncertainty, lots of factors beyond our control. However, there are also other factors within our control. So I'm sure we all agree that we need to be intentional about energy efficiency. We appreciate the insights shared by our panelists and the engagement from all our participants. And we look forward to continuing this journey through our upcoming training program. Watch this space. Thank you very much for joining us and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Sewa, for that. As we bring today's discussion to a close, let me highlight 3 key important takeaways. First, energy efficiency in buildings is no longer optional. It is a practical response to rising energy costs, tightening regulations, and growing ESG and climate risk expectations. Secondly, measuring and managing energy performance through audits, efficient cooling, and informed procurement is the foundation for both cost reduction and credible Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions reduction. And third, while today's webinar is focused on awareness and strategic insight, many organizations now recognize the need for deeper hands-on capability to translate these insights into action. To that end, Deloitte will be rolling out a dedicated energy efficiency training program designed to provide practical tools, implementation frameworks, and technical guidance for facility teams, engineers, sustainability leads, and decision makers. Further details will be shared with participants following this session. On behalf of Deloitte Ghana, I would like to thank our panelists for taking time out of their busy schedules for this valuable insights, for their valuable insights, and also to you, our participants, our audience, for your engagement, for your questions. We hope today's discussion has been both informative and action-oriented, and we look forward to continuing the conversation through the upcoming training program. Like Sewa mentioned, watch this space. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Let's get started.
Can you hear me?
Can't hear you. We have to.
Is he able to handle that? That's it.
worry, we'll get there.
Have you heard the news?
This morning, a groundbreaking initiative has officially been launched.
This is going to change a lot.
This is a very important step
towards a sustainable future.